Flipping the chemistry class. In this presentation on flipping the chemistry class, we're going to talk a little bit about learning today, the way students of today's brains work. They certainly seem to work differently than the way ours did. We'll talk about how flipping works, how it plays into the brain patterns that our students of today have. Talk about the materials that are needed to flip a class, what occurs in the lecture hall, the 4 student roles that I like to see used in my class, what we at Chemistry Professor can offer, and contact information in case you should have some questions. You have probably seen one of these learning pyramids, but let me warn you, it has changed radically in the past few years. The latest research indicates that after 48 hours, students tend to recall about 5% of what they hear in lecture. Think about your students in the lecture class. They sit there sometimes with their gaze wandering off somewhere, with their fingers busy texting under the desk. It's hard to keep them engaged for the whole period like we would like to. They tend to recall about 10% of what they read. And if you talk to your students, you're going to find that sometimes they will tell you that they will be reading something and their mind will be off on something else. And their eyes are going over the words, but the concepts are not sticking with their brain. They remember about 20% of the audio visuals that we show them. About 30% of what we demonstrate because there's action there. About 50% of what they talk about in a discussion group. About 75% of what they practice. That's why lab is so important, as we know. But oh, this is the big one. 90% of what they teach others. This area is passive learning. Passive learning is learning that only activates 1 or maybe 2 parts of the brain at a time. And in doing that, it doesn't stay with them as long. Active learning, on the other hand, tends to activate multiple places in the brain at the same time. And the latest in neuroscience tells us that brain cells that fire together, that act together, wire together. And when they do, it anchors the learning, and the learning becomes stronger and more long-term. Long-term learning occurs with this activated learning. Analysis, evaluation, synthesis, that is where this occurs. And you and I both know there's nothing like chemistry to help with students learning to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize. So if this is the learning pyramid, what is done where? This part right here is done outside of class. They don't need you to be talking to them when there are these other things they want to do, so put them out there and stream this information to them so that if they can only focus for 5 minutes, at least they can focus for 5 minutes. Then they can do something else and come back again. Do this outside of class and make the active part of it when they're talking with each other, when they're working problems, when they're talking about studies that they've done, when they're trying to help each other with things. That's when they need us. That's when they need us to help make sure that they're on the right track, not to talk at them. We've done that already. Let them get that outside of class. Let's switch and have the active part where they need us be done in class, where we can be present to help them, and thereby convert our class from this kind of a scene to this kind of a scene, in which we as the instructor happen to be wandering around, helping them as they need it. What kind of materials are you going to need to flip this class? You're going to need the videos of lecture. Now, the lecture videos can be videos that you have made. They can be videos that you've picked up from the internet, maybe TED Talks. There's some good things on YouTube. There may be several sources out there. Or you may want to use the videos from Chemistry Professor. But one thing that you must have in any case, and that is a note guide. These students don't know how to take notes. They don't know what's important, so they try to write down everything. And they get frustrated and they don't write down the right thing. They need a note guide that accompanies whatever they are watching and gives them such things as key terms. And the term is listed there and they fill it in. The problem is written there and they work the problem out with the instructor. Maybe the case studies are highlighted there and they go through and make notes on those case studies. There are exercises and quizzes possibly in there to give them practice on something they never seem to practice enough. So what occurs in the lecture hall? In the lecture hall, we break students into small groups, usually 3 or 4 students per group. 2 students and have 1 absent means you've got a student working by themselves. More than 4 students creates a situation with some of these people who will then be reluctant to speak up because the group is too big. So 3 or 4 students seems to work perfectly per group. And what do they work on? These activities that you have designed. Possibly a worksheet. This could be chosen problems from their textbook. It could be problems that you have put together, or questions or equations or synthesis or something of this type. And they get together and they work on these to try to figure out the solutions. They bring their note guides with them to use as their source of information. Not their textbook, but their note guides. They may also take quizzes together. They love group quizzes. They get in there, and it's sometimes funny because they can only turn in 1 quiz for the group. They all have to agree on the answer, and they'll start arguing about what might be the correct answer. And you get some really, really good interaction on those quizzes. Games are great things to do with them in class. Competitive games, maybe Jeopardies. There's some great Jeopardy games out there. You don't have to build them yourself. There are some out there that are wonderful to use that you can fill in and put in the kinds of questions you want. Participant evaluations. They evaluate each other. Every time I give a unit test, the group composition changes so that students are always working with students who have performed at about their same level. And they do participant evaluations to talk about how well their colleagues have been trying to participate and to be helpful. That is important. And if you make a few points on that, well, that's even more reason for students to be active in the classroom. In my class, I have 4 student roles that are played. I have a leader. Each group has a leader, and each time we change the composition of the group, the leader changes. The leader's job is to keep the group on track, to keep them busy, and to be the instructor aware of any problems that they may be having. A recorder. Now this is kind of apparent. The recorder is the one that records the agreed upon answers on quizzes and things of that type. I also have a devil's advocate. The devil's advocate asks the hard questions. Why? Why does it work this way? How do you know it works this way and not that way? Which is the best way to go about this? In other words, the devil's advocate helps keep the group going with asking and answering questions with the conversations. And I periodically pull those devil's advocates out and make some suggestions of key questions they might be asking. And there's a 4th role that is played in my groups, and that is the role of tutor. Now, the tutor will clarify certain issues, but sometimes I find that several groups are having a problem with one area, so maybe I didn't do as good a job of covering that as I would have liked to. So I call the tutors out and give them some special hints and techniques as how to address that. so that the tutor can go back and clarify the area with the students. It also gives that tutor a chance to vocalize and verbalize his or her understanding, which is something that can be profound in this learning business. What materials do we offer at Chemistry Professor? We have spent thousands of hours developing videos. We have fundamentals of chemistry that can be either 1 or 2 semester. Generally, if it's a high school course, it covers 2 semesters. Or a college course, it's done in 1 semester. We have College Chemistry 1, which is the first semester of college chemistry, and pretty well everyone agrees on what topics should be covered there. Then the second semester of the college chemistry we offer also. The organic chemistry that we offer is a 2-semester organic chemistry course, and it covers the major topics that are covered in all the major textbooks. But importantly, we offer a note guide that exactly goes along with these courses. A note guide designed with the terms there so that students can get an accurate, detailed, organized set of notes that contain the periodic tables when they need them, that contain charts when they're being discussed, that have a table of contents so that if they need to say, oh, where in my notes is my information on Introduction to Stoichiometry, they can look in the table of contents and see exactly what page of their notes they should find that on. That covers exercises and quizzes to help them practice things that very often they don't practice sufficiently. Oh, you may have many questions about this. I've been doing group learning for quite a while now. If I can help you, contact me. Here's my email. You may certainly send me an email at this site, or you may call me at this number. And if I don't answer, leave a message, because I very well may be at the college working with my own groups of students. The better way to teach and learn chemistry.